What's up guys, Mustang Doctor, and I'm coming to you guys tonight to show you the Fore Innovations fuel system we got for the GT350. We've got everything ready to go. The whole thing isn't going in tonight, but right now we're actually just assembling the Fore Innovations fuel rails. So have gone so far and just assembled the crossover fittings and then the high side, low side return and intake fittings onto the fuel rails themselves. Down here where the fuel injectors are going to go in, of course, and then these are going to bolt onto the rail. The one thing I was really surprised by in the kit, and I've looked all over for it, and I don't think we've missed it, is the crossover line. Seem to be missing the crossover line, which is probably just something that doesn't come in the kit. And I'm not sure if a lot of guys are just using the -10 feed line and cutting it down, or cutting some of it out, and just making that small crossover, which is basically the crossover from here to here that's going to connect the two rails when the fuel comes in. I'm not sure if that's what they're doing or if we do need to source a completely different line for that. So I do need to look into that, and I may just have to call Fore when they open, go from there. But right now we were just getting the rails assembled and trying to drain the rest of the fuel out of the tank. Unfortunately, when we had the car at the track last, we had just filled up the tank with the 85 to the brim, and on the first pass we snapped an axle. So the car is full of E85 and I need to drop the tank because we're throwing a new tank in since we had some issues with that the tank, and that's a long story. But anyways, the tank needs to go, not because of the Fore Innovations fuel system install, but just because there's some damage to the tank. So we're replacing that, and it actually just kind of worked out because the new tank, well, it's actually a used tank, is out. So I'm going to be able to install the fuel hat and fuel pumps and everything while the tank is out, and the lines, and really just get everything ready to go, so that we can drop the tank in the car once we empty the fuel, and then we can easily just put the new one in with the fuel hat and fuel pumps and everything already installed and ready to go, including the lines. So it's going to make this fortunately or unfortunately a little bit easier, I think, on the install, but either way I think it would have been fine. But right now you guys can see this hillbilly makeshift fuel drain line, I guess I'll call it, because essentially what we're doing is we've got to get all that E85 out of the tank, or that thing's going to be way too heavy for me to drop on my own. Plus we just need to get it out and move everything over to the new tank anyways. But essentially what we had to do was we just disconnected the fuel line from the rail, because these rails are coming out anyways, because we're going to put the new Fore Innovations fuel rails in, and basically what we're doing here is just feeding the fuel line, and this is basically the fuel line that comes from the back of the fuel tank, essentially from the back of the car, runs underneath and then up through here, and then it normally would go into the fuel rails and feed the injectors. But we've disconnected it for this step, and I'm just running it into this makeshift drain hose, and we're just going to fill up a handful of 5-gallon containers to get it out of the tank. But one of the interesting things in order to make this happen is this isn't going to just drain itself by turning the key on, because basically what happens when you prime the key is it's just gonna prime the fuel pumps for like a couple seconds, just to prime the pumps and feed the rails and get ready for engine startup. And what we needed to do is just run consistently until the tank's dry. So essentially what we had to do is go into the tune file itself and program the drain tune, we'll call it. And essentially to do that, all you're doing is we're just going into the fuel system tab, and on the pump command signal, you got to change that to 49%. And then you got to change the minimum on time to 31 seconds, because essentially what that's going to do is we're just going to key on, and that's just going to continue to run the fuel until the tank's dry. And you guys can hear that running now. We're just running it right through the line, straight through the makeshift dump hose, I guess, and down into this 5-gallon container. So We're just draining the tank at this point and getting ready to drop the tank. The other things that we're going to need to do, I've already dropped the exhaust because we needed to get that out of the way in order to get one of the axles out. And essentially what we'll need to do further from here is drop the drive shaft. Once we drop the drive shaft, we'll be able to unbolt the straps that are holding up the fuel tank, and we'll be able to just drop the fuel tank from there. All right, guys, we will keep you posted as this goes. Okay guys, so we have the thick FIC 1200 cc injectors taken out of the old fuel rail, pictured right there, and installed in the new Fore Innovations fuel rails, and these will be going in the car now. Okay guys, so we got the fuel rail, fuel injectors, and the pressure gauge installed. Next, we've got to create a rear connector line for the two fuel rails. And then we got to run the fuel pressure regulator and start installing the rest of the system.